What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to ICNV Drivers Edition. And today I got a hot conversation for you. But before I dive into it, let me give you a little backstory on it, right? I'm out at SEMA and I got recognized by 12 people that have never met me before. And I thought that was fun and cool and interesting. A couple people took pictures with me. I'm pretty sure they had no clue who I was, but I think they just took the picture because other people took pictures and they wanted to just make sure on the off chance if I was somebody famous, they didn't miss out. And that was kind of funny to me. But sitting down in I would say, the little cafeteria area, because it was set up like a cafeteria. If you was there, you know what I'm talking about. I was sitting down eating lunch when another guy came up that recognized me. And his name's Jason. We got into a conversation. And what he brought to my attention was he showed me pictures, or we started a discussion about Tremec, or the transmission company that makes the C8 transmission, the DCT. They actually brought out a 6-speed manual transmission. And just like every other Corvette enthusiast, he felt like this was the sign that the C8 platform is going to get a manual transmission by GM. I'm not sure we should agree with that or that's the actual truth. So let's dive into that conversation. So if this is your first time to the channel, my name is Sho. This is ICNV Driversedition. We are a channel for car enthusiasts that love to drive cars that make you turn your head, that aren't your everyday people movers. But we're also an interactive community, which means if you hit me up on any one of my social media platforms or in the comments below, I'll do my best to respond. And if the topic you bring up is interesting enough, I may even shoot a video on it, just like this one. So this topic didn't come out the comments, but like I said, it came from a face-to-face conversation over a meal. Now, he showed me a picture that he pulled up on his phone of this transmission. Here it is right here. So he pulled up a post from somebody else who had a picture of the transmission. He showed it to me. And like I explained to him this is groundbreaking news. So I felt like, based off the conversation with him, and we had a really good conversation because like I explained to him, although they're bringing a manual transmission to the C8 platform, I don't really feel like the manual transmission is the answer. To me, it actually restricts the C8. And I don't believe anybody, I don't care how good you are, driving a stick shift on the C8 platform can match the performance capabilities of that dual clutch transmission in an automatic state. So that's just my opinion. And honestly, that's what the engineer said. And sometimes you have to believe the engineers because when you're chasing performance, they aren't the only brand. Chevy wasn't the only people to eliminate a manual transmission. All the really high performance cars from Ferrari, Lambo to McLaren and so forth, they're dual clutch. So that should tell you something, that the dual clutch gives you some type of performance advantage that a manual transmission just doesn't give, because it requires too much, I would say, operator input, and you just don't get the same function shifts and so forth. But just being fully transparent, so I found myself on a personal mission after this conversation, and it was a good conversation. So thank you, Jason, for bringing it up so we can have this beautiful conversation. I found myself on a mission to find Tremec and actually talk to him. So when I actually tracked down Tremec and saw the transmission, I actually got to talking to one of the representatives. And the information they shared with me was quite interesting. And a lot of this information has slowly started to leak out. But this manual transmission isn't a product or something that GM requested. This is something that they did on their own. So yes, it bolts up, lines up, and mounts perfectly with the Corvette C8 platform. But this wasn't a request by GM. So this is Tremec actually taking their transmission and trying to enter into the aftermarket community. They also sat there and said that at this point, based off the ECU that GM has, they haven't, I guess you can say for lack of a better word, cracked the code on it. So they're still kind of piggyback off and haven't worked out all the bugs or the software glitches with it, but the transmission does work. And for all states and purposes, you can drive it functionally, but they're still working out the kinks. Another thing they sat there and said to me was that this is truly an aftermarket option, trying to give another, another option for those who really want a manual transmission in their Corvette. So now I got to thinking, like, how many Corvette owners are really going to take advantage of this? I mean, we will see some manual transmission Corvettes come to the marketplace because they're going to be rare. And just because the fact it can be done and we know there's a product out there, somebody's going to spend the money. To me, this is a C8-based platform modification, but I'm sure somebody's going to do something, I would say, crazy and probably do it to a Z06. I don't know why you would, but because to me, you're downgrading the performance the car actually has. And I know I'm going to get some comments below where people are going to sit there and say, it not affects the performance, but if you can't keep up with the shifts of the DCT because you now have a manual platform, you're downgrading the performance. Just keep that part right there. And another thing about it was that although they did build this transmission, the DCT transmission for the C8, actually works on another vehicle. It's used on another platform. And that platform just happens to be, I think, the Ford GTD. So now, as Corvette owners, when we all complain about the transmission states of the C8, and a lot of people are like, I'm going to get the Ford GTD. Well, it's the same transmission. And honestly, this manual transmission option was more so designed for the GTD than what it was the actual Corvette C8, but it was a good alternative to add to the Corvette C8 aftermarket products. So I don't know if I just tongue twisted you guys and gave you a little confusion, but overall, this conversation with the new manual transmission option, which is not sanctioned, or should I say not something that GM is looking to put out officially. They may do it in the future if there's enough traction and enough people are actually doing it on their own, because GM's not going to let that money slide away. But realistically right now, there is no designs nowhere in any engineering thought process to throw this transmission and give you a manual option on your base C8 as of today, or your Z06, and definitely not your C8 ZR1 or 1X. So there has been a lot of noise in the Corvette community surrounding this topic for something that, unless you're willing to spend extra money, and people complain now and fear the cost of the DCT transmission, I don't know how many other people are actually going to go out there and buy a new transmission, not when their car doesn't actually need a transmission, to replace a fully functional transmission with one that's going to kind of possibly give you some issues when you drive your car. I mean, don't get me wrong, true car enthusiasts, true performance chasers, true novelists, should I say, they're going to do it anyway. But for the average Joe, who always wants to sit there and say, if the C8 had a manual option, I would buy it, I just don't see them going out and buying it. But then again, if you can get your hands on a used C8, somewhere, let's just say around 40, 50 grand, which is still a hard stretch in today's market space. But if you could do that and you got a car with 20,000 miles, I can possibly see some owners saying, you know what, I'm going to switch this to a manual Corvette. They're still not going to really drive it, but they're going to show up at the Cars and Coffees and tell everyone, I got what you don't have, and that's a manual C8. So I guess I'm really looking forward to the day that I pull up to a car meet, a Cars and Coffee, or a car show and actually see a manual transmission Corvette C8 sitting there. I guess in the end, we're really not too far along from that being more of a reality sooner than later. But I will sit there and say this to you. The aftermarket scene does not seem to surprise me, and they never let you down. So if there's enough demand for anything, somebody will find a way to make it, even if that somebody is the actual manufacturer that's building the product that we're criticizing. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe the C8 platform actually needs a manual transmission? Are you one of those people that will actually go out and buy this transmission and swap it out on your Corvette C8? Are you somebody that would buy one if somebody else does the work and makes the price a little bit higher just because you can actually get your hands on one? I mean, let me know where your stance is on this manual C8 6-speed option for the Corvette C8 platform. Is this something that actually got your attention, it hit your radar and got your mind and your wheels cranking, thinking maybe somehow, some way, someday you'll show up in a manual transmission C8? I'm so funny. But let me know what your stance is. I would love to hear it. ICNV Drivers, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, join the ICNV Drivers community. Like I stated before, we're an interactive community, which means if you hit me up on any one of my social media platforms or in the comments below, I'll do my best to respond. And if the topic you bring up is interesting enough, I may even shoot a video on it. But don't forget, we were all made in his image and given dominion over the world, which means we weren't just meant to be. So chase your dreams, build your visions, never ever give up, and embrace your own identity. It is okay to be unique. He's not done with you, and he's definitely not done with me. We were all given unique gifts to become the best person we can possibly be. So step into your calling and be the blessing to the world that you were meant to be. Just remember to stay humble, stay focused, and stay blessed. And I'll see you in these streets. Peace.